And they kept hitting in Neil's court behind me, and they were playing some competitive back there.
Yeah, I was getting sick.
It's good.
Almost threw it the other way.
One day.
Should we wait until that's read?
Just for the record, Neil's got the color
It's
memo.
not read yet.
Just kinda got the thing going on.
Oh, is that what today is?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Oh, I've got
Only
like
if you're
4
bald.
of these coach
Old man
shirts,
pink day.
so. Oh,
Old man pink day.
well, I don't know if I wanna be in the old man crowd.
Oh.
Oh, I'm safe.
No, you're
This ain't going anywhere.
just.
Is it on yet?
Waiting until that goes red, so.
She just was texting.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what you're waiting for. Okay. Good, so none of that conversation was on that.
No, I made sure
Clean
it
out
wasn't
early.
on yet.
Okay,
I don't see it, but.
Pledge allegiance?
we got a lot. Good again.
Well, it's on the agenda.
Is there a button you have to push?
Hold on,
I don't think it is.
never mind, no,
Alright, since
not.
we're back live.
We don't have a red light on the
I know,
microphone.
I'm checking, I think he's okay, he just said we're live, so it must be
okay.
good.
Madam President, I would like to make a motion to approve the contracts as presented in closed session.
I'll second that.
Hold on. I'm sorry, aren't we out of order?
No,
We reconvened, public comments are first.
Before we can,
Yes,
Take
before,
action?
yes.
okay.
Okay, there are no public comments.
No, you're right.
I held it.
Okay, now we're good.
Alright, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contracts as presented in closed session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, contract's approved. Chris, just let me know when you're ready to move on.
I'm good,
All right,
thank you.
committee reports.
Alright. So we met on the 31st and we went through the 3,000 and 4,000. And just as a reminder, this was already previously reviewed by the committee once before the board changed over. So it's the second time through committee and then it was brought back to the board. And as Tina pointed out in the email when she sent the link to everyone for review, that these are, for the most part, the same policies for both non-certified staff and certified staff, except for where there's a noted difference, but otherwise they're almost identical. So we went through all those, we compared them to WASB, Amy did a really deep dive with some of the stuff as well, and we worked through all those questions. The document was shared with the rest of the board, so you could see all of our comments and what was worked through and the proposed changes. So they're now to the board, and I would like to suggest that we approve them today rather than going through another board version. That's my suggestion. And that's my report.
I have one small thing. I really think the $25 gift card limit is silly for teachers' gifts. I would like the range to be bigger.
Trying to remember if part of that was based on statute.
The
I don't remember.
Neola, the Neola policy was written as nominal, and then we collectively, in the committee at least,
Right, put a
talked.
$25.
Because someplace else in Neola policy, it listed $25 as the maximum amount.
Yeah, but I can't remember what.
And does that have to do with getting taxed,
I think so.
if I remember correctly?
And I don't.
Let me see
Because I
that.
remember that being like a room mom thing they used to teach us way back in the day, like when we still had PTO. But people would just, like, I remember being a room mom and buying 5 gift cards for like a birthday, like a cumulative birthday present for the
Oh,
teacher
I see.
through, a collective thing, and handing her over like 4 different gift cards so that she could have, $100
Just
gift
a note
card.
in that, if you look at the sentence, I think it's either right below or 2 below, it says that the superintendent does reserve the right to provide exceptions to
I
that
did
in
see
special
that.
circumstances.
I guess that was my thought, is when people do a collective together for like a birthday gift, it's gonna be more than $25.
Sure.
And I mean,
Great point. I kind of took that as like per person, not like for a class gift. Because if you're taking a collection from multiple people, from students.
when I give gift cards to teachers, I give more than 25. And I feel like the other students don't know what I'm giving. Like, that's a private gift in a card that she's or he's opening, you know.
It's been 20 years since I was in a classroom and I got way more than $25 gift cards.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I highly doubt anybody's bribing a teacher at the
Right.
end of the
Yeah,
day with
right.
gift cards.
I don't have a
I
problem
don't
with it,
know.
it's just somewhere in my pea brain I have that it was based on statute or spelled out in Neola someplace else.
It is, sorry, if I may.
No, please.
It
Please
is
do.
outlined in 3230,
That's what I
but
was
it
looking at.
is a dollar amount that we can change,
Okay,
just so you know. So they are sometimes tied to another policy, and this one, but we can change it.
okay.
So if you go to
You want to pick a dollar?
3230,
Put it out there, I'll just do it.
paragraph at the
Yeah.
What's
bottom
the big deal?
of
Just
page
put a
one.
bigger dollar.
Is that page one, page two?
So it says
How about we leave
pursuant
it
to
at 100
federal
bucks?
rules has a set of
100?
standards, may accept
150,
a
I don't know.
gift. So do we know if there's any max in the federal rules that references?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Let me see if I can.
I just wanna make sure we're not doing anything that goes against, that's not legal.
It might be.
I otherwise
what
have
Matt
no
said,
problem.
Where it was taxed.
Yeah, that's what, like I said, that was, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's like,
I wonder
I'm sure
if
the
it,
teacher would happily pay tax if they got $200 from somebody and paid
Well, I mean, would it be,
$20 in tax
right?
rather than a $25 check.
right, I mean, is it a less than, right, under?
In the federal, it says not to exceed 50 in a year from one source. So technically, one family could do a $50, up to $50.
That's the legality side right before it.
So, I mean,
think
I
if that's
guess our
what it
hands are
says-
tied.
I think if that's what it says in federal guidelines, that's what we have to officially put in our policy.
Well, this is an option, remember, this is a drafting option, so we could choose not to accept. However, pursuant to federal rules, the school district has set standards for when an employee, officer, or agent may accept a gift of an unsolicited item of nominal value. You could just eliminate that whole sentence.
But there's still a federal law whether or not we put it in there or not. I mean, I'm fine, trust me, I'm fine with, if people wanna give teachers whatever.
I'm gonna tell you
I just
this
wanna
right
make sure
now,
it's-
people are not gonna read this
No, that's
policy
what I'm
and they're
saying, it
gonna
doesn't
just give
matter.
it,
That's what I'm, but
give
I mean,
it
does-
anyways, but
Does Neil,
Right,
when
so
you,
But now I know the policy and I'm on board and I wanna be able to give my teachers more money.
but does, when you send something like this back through New York, like when we finalize all this stuff, do they have some system that goes through all these changes and flags and says, oh, you're breaking federal statute here, you really shouldn't do that, or
No.
do they just accept stuff?
No, they accept that the board does their job
Okay.
and looks at them and makes the adjustments that they want them to make. What the finalization is all that strike through, the red, the green, the district administrator will be moved to superintendent, right, all those name changes, cause that's like a big thing. They'll put them all in final format, that's all they're gonna do at the end. All of the work prior to that is sitting with the Neola guy and going, okay, what's, where are we at, kind of a thing. So,
But if we put a dollar amount on there, don't we put somewhat of an onus on the teacher then too? If we say 50, then it's up to them. If somebody gives them a $100 gift card per policy, then technically they shouldn't accept it. Technically. So if
Which
they-
is
I don't think it
terrible,
matters
I
too
mean,
much.
I know,
that's, I mean,
Can we just put like $100, $150?
I-
Just like pick
So,
a number.
I guess my concern is there's a legality side to it, like even where I'm at, same thing. They tell you what you should or shouldn't get in the nominal factor, cause it covers the entity. So I guess if this is like one that really has to do with a legality, can we take that one line off the list and send that one piece back to committee to see what legality should be.
Read it. So if, Amy,
Is this new or is this a revised policy?
statute
Um,
still?
Yes, and it looks like it's, as you can imagine, probably more for like, not teachers. When you're looking at the federal law, it's more of, I give a large donation and I expect something in return. So I think it's not really meant specifically for teachers because it goes on to say, in exchange for being influenced in other ways. Or some sort of official position is being used to solicit or coerce the offering of a gift, things of that nature. So, I think it's just the federal guideline, obviously, I look at this, if Neola left it blank and that we can add an amount, that is something that we can adjust, or we do like Tina suggested and just
Strike it.
Strike it, because it does also further go on to say that it allows for so section 200.319 of Title II of the Code of Federal Regulations allows for non-federal entities, in parens, districts, to set standards for situations in which the financial interest is not substantial or the gift is an unsolicited item of nominal value. In such a situation, nominal value must be defined. Nominal value is frequently defined as anything of value less than 25. However, local standards may differ. Which means local government, right, us, this board, can make a decision outside of, because we are a non-federal entity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just strike it and not put an amount?
Do we need to motion that? I mean,
Yeah.
Or it
Let's do it.
sounds like we need to have an amount, but we can define what nominal is.
Okay,
So are you thinking 100 then?
100 or 150?
150.
I think 100, yeah. You guys good with that?
Do you wanna vote on making that change? Or do you just wanna say that's what you're gonna do when you add it to the final approval, cause you're gonna do that where it says decision?
Let's do the easier one.
That'll be next. Well, we are on, from the committee reports, the second letter was board discussion and
Yeah.
decision, so we are technically on that part now, so we could do
Yeah.
it now.
The only thing that I would caution about discussion and decision is per our own policy that we approved when we were looking at the Neola 1,000 policies, or zero policies, policy 131.1 does say that it needs to be reviewed at 2 consecutive board meetings before we can take a vote on it. So if the majority of the board wants to approve it tonight, we have to make a motion to suspend that policy for this, according to our own policies.
Potentially just put it into the motion, noting the requirement.
Whatever, I just wanna make sure that we're aware that we're violating our own policies. And in part, the reason why I have a concern with that, when we're looking at the 3,000 and 4,000 series, is because they involve policies that are important to our employees who won't necessarily have had a chance since Friday afternoon to look through those couple hundred pages and provide any input or questions back. Especially when they think that this will be the first review and then there'll be a second review and decision in July. And so that's my concern with this, with approving it tonight.
Approving this one change?
No,
or the whole?
all 3,000 and 4,000 series.
Chris's recommendation at the start was to approve it for finalization. I think part of that is coming from the need to get our employee handbook and student handbooks up to date. And in order for us to do that, these policies have to be ready to go.
Would we be able to say, because if all the policies, if there's no concerns on our part, can we give you guys the ability to go ahead and start updating handbooks, assuming that there's not gonna be any major changes? And then we can so that gives people more time, and then to give us input, and then assuming that there's no more major inputs, it's just a formal approval in July, but you still have the chance to update handbooks in the meantime, because I don't wanna hand tie you that way, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at
And like, and counterwise, right?
Right.
I don't want us to put in all this time and energy to do this, only to have a bunch of complaints or thoughts or whatever come to you, and then you bring them forward, and then we have that, now all this other work we have to review.
do we think there's gonna be much issue though? I mean, cause
You seem to think that, I don't,
Well,
I don't know.
Have you had staff come?
well, staff didn't know.
What, that policies were being updated?
Correct.
Well, that's on them, because if,
They know that policies are being updated. They don't know exactly the order or where we're at with it, but they know policies are being updated.
Not the people I talked to.
just view the board agendas.
I talked to half a dozen people who I know because I specifically I wanted them to be aware that this was on the agenda and to take a look at it and provide any feedback, because that's what I think is important if we're looking at making potential changes to the policies and the handbooks that affect them. I think it's important that people know that. And everybody's out on summer vacation. It's a couple hundred pages of stuff. And what I told people is I don't see any concerns. I think everything's okay, but your perspective is different than mine. So I just want you to be aware that this is on the board agenda. And everybody I talked to, nobody knew that some people for some reason or other didn't even know that we were looking at switching from WASB to Neola. That's a separate issue. But also people didn't know that this was going to be on the agenda for this week. And in my workplace, and maybe this is more of an education setting, anytime there's policy changes or handbook changes that are being made that affect the faculty, the faculty have a chance and the teachers have a chance to read and provide input back before final decisions are made. So I just want to be respectful of that process and be respectful to our employees so that they have a chance, that if there are any changes that they have concerns about, that they have the opportunity to vocalize them.
What is the current, I don't remember, do you know, does the current WASB policy that's in place address that at all?
Oh, I'm talking about all of the 3,000 and 4,000 series, not just the nominal.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Let me ask this, I mean, I tried to read most of the policies, I'm sure, promise I read every word. As I understand it, you guys tried to highlight where it was different from our current policies.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see a lot of changes, so what I saw didn't seem to highlight that there was like some mass inputting of new policies or things of that nature, so. I mean, it seems to me unless there's something specific I'm missing, any complaints next month would most likely be based upon a policy that's probably already in place, so.
There were a couple here that we had no current policy for.
Correct.
So I'm trying to see. Shoot.
So I'm gonna say this. It is on, Tina's communicating that the handbook is being updated, correct? People know you're updating the handbook.
I mean, we've talked about it at every single meeting.
Okay.
That we have to
So
do these
there's that.
policies.
It's
yeah.
also on each individual person to be checking agendas and coming to meetings, reading the board packet if they want to be involved. I don't think we should be initiating feedback from people when we're doing something. It feels like we're trying to derail the situation, in my opinion.
So thank you for sharing that. My goal is not to derail, but to make people aware of what's going on and make sure, because while I agree that people have the ability to look at the agenda, it's also, this is the start of the first week of summer school, the start of summer break. I don't know how many people have been looking, and by following our policy, there should be 2 school board meetings over which this information is presented, so they should have a full month to be able to take a look at it and provide input, not the weekend.
But you're reaching out to specific people. That's not fair.
Who
You're
I
not reaching
asked
out
to-
everyone else is getting missed then too.
Who I asked to reach out to others and let them know.
Okay, but they're not gonna reach out to the entire public that has
You mean
or
all of our
staff or
employees?
employees that are going to have potential input. So that's my point, is it's on them to look at the agenda, come to meetings, make public comments, email Tina, or whatever it is. When we're as individual board members reaching out to individual staff members, I think that's not good.
And I would disagree, because I think that's part of doing my research. If there is an issue before the board that I want to get input into or allow people to have input into.
But you're getting only input from specific people you're reaching out to. So how is that unbiased?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to, since we're just in discussion and there's no motion on the table, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 3,000 and 4,000 series policies, noting that the board is approving these policies on the first read.
Can I ask a question?
You can do anything you want.
Is that including the update to the gift card thing?
I didn't say that, so it would need to be amended.
Okay.
If there's no second, then it fails.
Yeah, it fails. Does anyone else have any more discussion?
Go ahead.
No, I don't know, that's it. I mean, look, we're just talking, I don't know how to make a motion. My suggestion would be to amend the dollar amount thing and pass everything tonight, given the work they need to do to get this into the handbook. Whoever wants to put that in the right legalese, that would be what I think should happen as we discuss it here.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 3,000 and 4,000 series policies, noting the board is approving these policies on the first read and with the change to the nominal gift amount to $150.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Hold on, just a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Nay.
Okay, motion passes 4-1.
You can go, I'll type while you're.
All right, Matt, it's all you.
Finance committee? Here we
Yep.
go. Okay, so Chris and I had our first finance meeting about 10 days ago. The agenda was light, but we were there for 2 hours. So, that stems from,
Got off in the nick of time.
it's done, look, but we're both new to the board, we're obviously new to the finance committee, right? So,
Tina and Amy indulged in a lot of questions. What we decided to do is in the next 3 to 4 meetings, we're gonna dive deeply into 1 or 2 topics in each one, so Chris and I can really get our arms around kind of what's happening, so we're not just kind of doing what's been done, we at least understand everything that's been done. This time we went in depth on purchasing, what's the approval process, how do you, who can do what, what's the process for getting stuff approved. We didn't see any issues we checked some checks and some of the stuff you guys have done, so we didn't see any issues there. I think that's it on what we went in depth for on that piece. Amy will go in more detail on some of the other stuff, so I won't rain on her parade, but of the more routine agenda items, I'm sure she can present a revised budget for this year that's ending this month. The good news there, we have roughly $90,000 of additional revenue above budget. On the bad news front, we have unpaid lunch balances, which have increased quite a bit at the end of the year. I imagine that might happen regularly at the end of the year because people run out of money, but were some issues and just kind of process there that I think Amy will talk about that we're gonna address. And then 2 other kind of more big picture items we talked about is that both Chris Haglund and I are both quite interested in looking a bit longer term with budgeting and not just doing annual budget cycles. I think kind of the first step in that, and it has been started as I understand it, is kind of a 5 and 10 year look at kind of the capital maintenance needs and building stuff. So when we're looking at a budget, it's not just, yeah, we can cover the cost this year, but we're sitting on $50,000 of repair and waiting for something to break. So we can kind of have a list of those things and plan for it. So I think that plays off nicely with some of the strategic planning we're trying to do. So that'll be in the process. I think the building guys are walking around and kind of making a list, and we can figure out if we wanna get somebody formally in here to cost out things and to really look at estimated lives of things and things of that nature, if their walkthrough is good enough, but at least have a better idea of what some of our longer term needs are from that. So I assume that's probably that's probably the biggest area where we're at risk 70 to 75% of our costs are staff and teachers and administrators. Your big ticket items are gonna be if the roof goes, or if the wall falls down, or all your windows are rotting out, or things of that nature, so look at that. The second big picture item is obviously we have the big August meeting coming up with presenting to the public. Again, with Chris and I being new and not being as steeped maybe in school finances as people who've been on the board are, and certainly people in the public are, we're gonna probably take a fresh look at kind of what has been presented in the past and think about, is there better ways, clearer ways, more information, less information that should be given, and maybe get some feedback on that to get stuff that's maybe a bit more easily digestible and understandable to the public. Understanding there's a balance from boring people with words and words and numbers and getting too in detail, but then also not getting too high level that people don't really understand what's going on. So I don't know what that's gonna look like, but we are gonna take kind of a fresh look at this August meeting and see, make some enhancements that help people understand things a little bit better.
That's great.
Chris, anything I missed?
No, I think that was it.
I will interject here and just say, the committee work over the course of these last 2 meetings has been incredible. It's been a pleasure to be a part of, because it's great to see the lens that other people look through, because we're so in it. And to have both Chris and Matt, brand new to the board, but ready to go and learn and understand and look big picture, I love that. I love that, let's get down the road, where are we at in the future, and I think that's really great. And likewise with Chris and Amy and the policies, it isn't easy work, but it is board work. And so I think that it's really important that we do that. And I do want to address, just for you and for anybody listening, I do send memos to the staff. And once we get these things in place, I have a format, because that was my role in my previous district, was to have, this is the page number, this is what the change is, this is the why, so that they have it right in front of them. Right now, it's everything, right? Every single thing is being touched and looked at. And so with this fresh group and this idea in your mind, as we go through and we create and we get through these policies and get them out there, as issues arise, we bring them up. But right now, it's just a matter of really getting them in. So that's kind of my 2 cents for that.
And I just want to say thank you to them, because when we did policy work in the past, a spreadsheet like that did not exist. Like, even if we were just focusing on maybe 5 policies, it did not exist. You did not know what was changing, what it was compared to other things. It was a packet printed out like this with cross-throughs, and that was it. Like, so this view on one page, it makes our lives so much easier, and it gives them a lot of extra work. But just know that that didn't used to happen. So thank you.
Thanks, yeah.
All right. Consent agenda. I'm gonna make a motion to approve consent agenda items. Employee personnel report, monthly voucher and purchasing card report, school board meeting minutes from May 20th, 2024, and donations.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda approved. Okay, Tina.
Yep, just want to really highlight on a high level and update on a couple of things. So I'll start with the transportation piece, because I know people are wondering and there's questions about where are we and what are we doing. So I think first and foremost, I want to talk about the safety issues that we have. We do have crosswalks, and even in summer school, I've been standing out over here just to make sure we've got like 4 kiddos that ride their bikes to summer school, and people don't stop, they don't stop. And so we really do need to get a group of people together to do some PSAs on safety, contacting the chamber, contacting radio stations. I'm ready to pull all those plugs, because people need to know, and it's not just our families, right? It's community at large, and I know that it isn't just our community. It's happening everywhere. I went for a run the other night, and had I not been aware, a driver didn't even look to the right because they were going right. They just cared if somebody was coming from the left. Never even saw me. Like, it was so close. So I really aware of that, hyper aware of that, fixated on it, trying to figure that out. To whether we put rumble strips in, or, somebody had recommended, what did she say? I don't know, whatever those big water guns, super soaker. Take a super soaker out there, whatever I have to do, right? Like try to get this figured out to make sure. So we definitely have work in that area to, you know, try to figure it out.
Are we allowed to ask questions during this part of the
Sure.
presentation? When, cause I know what you talk about out here, like I know within the cause I live right here, so I know within the last year, they've kind of painted the lines and they put the crosswalk and things of that nature. Was there ever any discussion about changing it to just simply be 25 miles per hour until you get to here? Because I live here and I routinely find myself driving 45 when I come over the hill, and then it's like, oh, is it still school time or not? And it's
Right.
like,
How do you
and I got, all my kids go here and they walk, they don't bus, right? So it's like they're the ones at risk, and I'm not thinking about it because it's just always 45 there, and it's really, you know, was there any, do we know, did anybody ask about that? And I don't know if what's the process to go through to do something like that?
So that's where we're at, right? So I don't think either one of us were here when they started all those conversations. I do know that since Amy has been here, they put in that flashing sign because we had to pay for a portion of it. And so.
That sign is super late in my mind. The
I
sign is,
agree, it's
you're
abrupt
almost,
when you come over the hill.
you're almost, it's telling you you're going too fast when you've already hit 3 kids if they're standing in the road going to school. I mean, it's really, it's like here, and then the crosswalk is here, and then it ends, then you can go 45 because there's nothing to worry about. Like, it seems
Right.
like it should have been moved like
Right.
50 yards up the road.
I spoke with a really kind police officer from Hartland PD, I don't remember his name, but we were trying to figure out how to help the situation when I found out this is Waukesha County. So then I was like, okay, Waukesha County, so Hartland PD came down and we talked about it, didn't hear back from Waukesha County, and then somebody thought that it was Delafield's responsibility for the IDOT part of it, or not IDOT, Illinois, Wisconsin. The DOT, right, the engineers to come in and make those things work, so I'm not really sure, but even officials who are in the business of the, you know, PD and all of that, think that the way they engineered that whole situation over there is really, really, really odd. Because it is not, people just go around, they just whip around, and you got kids crossing right there. So, I was like, do I put a sawhorse up? I'm thinking things like, how do we partner, if we can't get Delafield, Waukesha, whoever it is, to, you know, really come out and take another hard look at this. Can we partner with a printing company and make those little stick-in signs, and we line this entire road with slow down, or get those little people, or whatever it is, flags, I don't care what it is, but make it a scene and get them to stop or slow down and think about what's happening. That's all part of this kind of safety concept. I don't know that I can make engineers that figured out that was the best option change their mind. But maybe if we as a community start to step up and say, you know what, we're gonna join forces together, we're gonna line the roads with these signs, we're gonna figure this out, maybe somebody will start to listen. That's my hope.
We just have a railroad crossing, so we just need some drop bars to
I
get
know.
the kids across.
Or build a bridge, what are those, like a
Pedestrian walkway.
Oh god, that's so ugly.
I don't know the community to go for that.
We could
Those
make
are
it
like
pretty.
Places to put graffiti in the
Yeah.
city, basically.
Yeah, so, and anyway.
Bad things off.
Yeah. Pedestrian operated cross, stoplights still, cause it's harder to run a red light.
Yeah,
I mean, it's more obvious when you run a red light, not harder to.
yeah, put a camera on it.
I purposely drive super slow. People are always tailgating me. I'm like trying to teach people lessons as I can slow down into the 15 purposely to try to get the whole row behind me to slow
Just
down.
go slow.
Yeah,
Just slow down.
and
We got
people,
kids.
they're right on my butt every time.
Yep, so that was that piece of the transportation. The other part is the part that I'm sure a lot of people really wanna hear about as well. So we've gone through all of these hazardous zones, right, and we've figured all these things out. If you live in a hazardous zone, you ride the bus and you don't pay, okay? If you are not considered in a hazardous zone, you rode last year, you can still ride this year. You can still ride, it's $110 per student, or capped at $330 for the year for a family. So those will be those pay to ride contracts. All other kiddos in busing situations are status quo. So where are we with the process and how we did that? Well, we have now identified all of the areas that are hazardous. We have the maps, we've got it figured out. We have the list of kids and their emails and their families and all of that on both sides. So next step will be for a letter to go out to help people identify, yep, you're in a hazardous zone, so you get to ride, this is what it's gonna be. You're not in a hazardous zone, but you rode last year, so here's a pay to ride form. So those will be coming out within the next week or two. And then we will get all of those forms back, and there will be a hard stop deadline on it, so please make sure that you get those in, because we have to get it to the transportation company. They will then create all of their bus routes and stops, and we will proceed then into probably mid-October for our transportation committee. So we're gonna be asking some individuals from the community to come in. Hartland PD would probably be involved. I'd have a board member or two involved, stakeholders, people that would be part of those questions. So if you have any further questions, please be sure to reach out to central office. There's a very basic email that you can just send it to, it'll come down here. Our principals aren't involved in this whole process, and they've got other things that they're working on. So if you have a question about it, reach directly out to either myself or Amy or anybody else in our office, and we'll be sure to get back to you on that. So that's like really important business stuff that I wanted to make sure that, was very clear. Other great news and excitement, and just a huge shout out to the employees in the district office for just really, locking in and getting stuff done, because we really have accomplished a whole lot this year. It's hard sometimes when you sit there and you start to, write down all the things that have been accomplished. And, I've said some of them before, but I think, staff appreciation, the WOW notes, the monthly staffing items, the staff recognition for years of service, the end of year celebration, all of that is in the name of recognition and retention. And I think we've done a mighty fine job of retaining staff. And so I'm really proud of that work, and I'm proud of our staff members for just the work they do, right? I mean, it's a lot, and so they've done a great job. So just a huge shout out there. We've done a complete athletic overhaul. We've got a coach's handbook, a student parent handbook, new uniforms for the students. We have a new athletic director from inside the house, and I think I can go ahead and announce him. Kyle O'Rourke.
Mr. O.
Yeah, Mr. O. He's the PE teacher over at North. So he will be taking on all of our athletics and activities, and he's super excited about it, and just really he loves Hartland. So super excited to have him do that work. And as you may remember, Cindy, our accounts payable person, was our athletic director, just trying to figure it all out. And as she is very, very detail oriented, as she went, she kept this piece in mind. How are we gonna turn this over? What does a handbook look like? What are the processes? And she kept track of it the entire time, so that we were able to quickly and easily put this, well, I don't know, quickly and easily, I say quickly and easily, I didn't have a lot to do with it, but really, really has done a bang up job, so to make that transition. And now there's no question, everybody knows, right? Everybody will know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, all those pieces. The digital mapping of all of our buildings, super excited, we've finalized that whole situation, so that's been a big deal.
Do you guys know? So it's for safety.
Yep.
Go ahead, I'll let you explain.
So we applied for a grant. Amy maybe is a better person to kind of explain. It's, just.
There was a federal grant that was available to have digital maps done of all of our buildings. We had a third-party vendor come in, Critical Response was the name of the group. We gave them blueprints, they came and walked the building, made sure nothing had changed. We developed these maps, and now it has been shared with all the first responders in the area. We will be doing updated maps for the staff as well. It's in our crisis go. So in the name of safety, we should be in a good spot starting next year.
So basically, like the police department keeps it on file, something happens, they can pull up a schematic of the building.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so pretty neat. The other thing that, just talking about safety, Matt had asked a great question about background checks. And we just do these things. We don't really think about coming back, but you approved back in April, I think, the Verkada system. Now, some of you have probably already used the Verkada system, that are in each of our building offices, including Central. And you come in and you check in, you say who you are, why you're there, and you scan your ID, and it immediately does a background check on every single person that comes through our offices. And then let's say there's like a questionable character, and it takes a snapshot of the face, and then it tells you where all this person has been. So it can tell you exactly where they've been over the course, and if they come back, or wherever they are. So that's really helpful too, when you start to think about, if ever, right, then we can track them directly through that Verkada system. I will tell you, the feedback from both staff and parents alike is remarkable. Like, they just, our families are like, oh my gosh, this is so much faster, and it locks it in, and right, I mean, it looks like you guys have used it.
I haven't used it yet, but I was checking in for like the last field trip of the year, and I'm like, it was not working. Never works, right? The old system never worked. And I was at South, and Heidi's like, oh, but we're getting new ones, Tiff. I'm like, I know, I approved that. But she was super stoked on it.
Yes, Heidi's so excited. So all of them, they are all very excited. And then I think just some upcoming things that I'm really excited about the work is our strategic planning process and board workshop. We're still working on trying to figure out what that's going to look like. But for me then, eventually, I've been saying this over and over again since day one, is that community outreach. So one of the pieces that will happen next year is every month I will hold a superintendent's corner. And I'll do, it in the morning, or I'll do it in the afternoon, because I know that I've got more than just, people that can make it in the morning. I've got people that would like to have conversations at night. And so I'm gonna every month do one of those where I will share what kind of the state of the district and what we're working on and things that we're looking at. And we could potentially turn that into, what are you curious about, just to get to know me, kind of moments. And then obviously district forecasting. I said it from the very beginning, we have to keep our eye on the future. And one of the things that I appreciated about the lens of our two new board members is that idea of keeping the eye on the future. Where are we headed? What are our plans? What's our future look like for Heartland? And because I think it's bright, right? And I think it's big, and I'm excited about that work. So those are the things that we have going on right now in Heartland, and hopefully everybody's enjoying their summer, even though it's really warm right now. But yeah, we're excited here, just banging things out, and looking forward to the new school year. That's my superintendent report.
Thank you. Amy?
Okay, monthly financial statement. There is one change. I included my summary, just so you guys could read it ahead of time if you want to. Something that will be coming next month, I did not change it for the May report, but at Finance Committee, they did recommend that on the actual statement, they would like to see a monthly column. So you will see that starting in June and then moving forward. So right now you see year-to-date activity, which is all the activity. There will also be a column for monthly. So as we work through things in finance, you might see some changes moving forward. We'll still leave some sort of comparable from last year, just so you have that too. But I might have to take one or two of these columns off to try to still fit it, or it might just go to landscape mode, and so you might have another page or two. Don't panic, it's the same information, it just might be laid out different. But I thought that was an exciting change that will be coming. But for Fund 10, you can see we look great still at this time. What I put in my notes is that we should be about 92% of the budget. That's just looking at 11 months out of 12. Because that was a question that came up at finance. Other things that I like to highlight is just where the money is coming from at this time, which a good chunk was from our grants, because we do quarterly claims. And then that interest on MaxSafe, which is our savings account, so that's still at 5.5%. For Fund 27, our special education, we did receive some grant funds of almost $46,000. We also get a little bit in Medicaid reimbursement, which the special ed staff submits those on a weekly basis. And then we have that interfund transfer from 10 to 27 because that account does need to be zero, which was just 264,642. Again, looking at Fund 27, I didn't see anything for expense-wise that was out of place at this time. Fund 46 is that capital improvement account that is tied to the long-term planning for buildings and grounds. As Matt mentioned, Greg, Tina, and myself will be walking the grounds over the summer to really do a deep dive in each building. There's some things that we know we want to look at, such as roofs, as well as some of the boilers and things, just so that we can get those on a cycle. But that might include bringing an outside engineer and things out to look at those and kind of put some sort of life on all of those things. But we will keep you posted. If we need to spend down those dollars, that's why that plan is important, because we need to kind of map that out if we're gonna start using Fund 46. Otherwise, right now, I'm just happy to report that we're growing the account with the interest. That is also at 5.53% right now, so that was just over 6,000 this last month. Fund 50 is our food service account. So that's really deposits for students and families, as well as our state and federal aid for the breakfast and lunch program, which was just over 22,000. I just highlighted that in Fund 50, that 500 is that capital improvement or capital object, which was the north dishwasher and freezer that the board approved, as well as the south dishwasher. We do need one more dishwasher, but I'm working through to see where that fund ends up and what we can do to get that for next year. So stay tuned. Fund 80 is our community service, which is just the daycare at this time. So that is just strictly daycare revenue and expenses. That source 500, that capital object, was the playground. But that was spending down fund balance. So it does show that Fund 80 is in the negative, but if you look at the capital object, that was 72,000 for that playground. So she will not end up in the negative because that is paying down from the fund balance, or will be paid from fund balance. Are there any questions on the monthly financial report? Okay. Moving on to discussion and decision on the 23-24 budget amendment. This is something that happens this time every year for school boards. So obviously when we approve the budget in October, the final budget, there is a form very much like this that is published for the community as well as for you guys. So as things change throughout the year, it's usually tied to a grant. We have to update that. It's for the auditors and for the state, just so that we have the most accurate picture of what those funds were spent on. So when you look at the general fund, Fund 10, the top box, we did receive more state library aid that is based on per pupil. So you see $31,000 change there, and then a little bit for our federal special grants projects as well. And then based on the budget adjustments that I did in Skyward, you can see that it still balances because money had to be spent on very specific things. For special education, something very similar. We had some additional federal special projects, and then I had to do an interfund transfer to balance where the actual expenses and things were. So again, as you know, Fund 27 has to balance, so that one will never have a surplus or deficit. But that is the change there as well. If this is approved by the board, I will have to do a notice in the paper based on these changes, and then it will go to the auditors and DPI as well. Are there any questions on the budget amendment?
Is now the right time to motion to approve it?
Yes, if there's no questions.
Motion to approve the budget amendment as laid out by Amy.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
Did you second that? I'm sorry.
Yes, I did. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next discussion, thanks to Matt, he told me to put them in this order because it makes more sense. Is discussion decision on preliminary budget for 24-25. Please know this is a very early budget, but we just need to have a preliminary budget because our fiscal year actually starts July 1st. So the layout is similar to what I presented in April as a preliminary. I did make some highlights, just so you know where changes have been made since the last time I presented this information. And that really is in student enrollment. As we mentioned, I think with 4K, the enrollment is down at this time. Not saying that it can't go up over the summer, but I did adjust for that in the budget at this time. I also brought summer school down a little bit, only because we weren't sure what Lake Country was doing with the band program, and that does count towards our summer school enrollment. So I have adjusted student enrollment count for summer school, as well as potentially when the student count will be the third Friday in September. As you know, or may not know, because you might be new, a big deciding factor for the tax levy and how much money we can get is that student enrollment count. So that is why I highlighted that piece, so that you know that we had made that change there. So the budget has changed slightly, but not greatly, because if our enrollment is down, we do get a declining enrollment exemption, so that we don't get hit as hard that first year. But more information will come at the annual meeting and then obviously in October.
Is that the same thing as hold harmless?
There was a declining and, yes. Mm-hmm.
But they're two separate things?
They're two separate things.
Okay.
Yes, one, I can't remember the terminology off the top of my head, one you get longer than the other one.
Okay.
When you're looking at tax levy, it is an average of 3 years, so that does help us during that time as well. So right now, because of those factors, you will see that the mill rate still hasn't changed drastically. We're at the 334. And then Fund 10, we've made some adjustments. And I just wanna highlight so that you know what that is. If you look under, on page 4, if you're following the electronic version, budget reductions and changes for 24-25. We did have that daycare benefit that we were reducing over 3 years. So there's a change or savings there. Staff reduction, we had 4 what we call floating teachers or floating subs through the ESSER funds. Because the ESSER funds are going away, we are keeping 2 of those. One will be shared between North Shore Middle School and South, and then there will be one at North. And then when we did have that 4K teacher resign, she was part-time, and at this time, we're not filling that based on current enrollment. So we do have a total FTE reduction of 2.5 at this time. With these changes in place, we still have a balanced budget as of this time. Like I said, this is preliminary. This just gets me started for July. The August meeting is a bigger meeting with the community where they can ask more questions, but it's not final and presented to the board until October. Are there any questions on the 24-25 preliminary budget?
Just, do we know when we're gonna hear about Lake Country and summer band?
I would have to follow up with our district office coordinator who's been working on that. She's taken on a big role and I have not had a chance to follow up with her. But I'm gonna make a note. I'm assuming you haven't heard, right? Okay. But our personal summer school enrollment is great. We're over 500, so.
Oh, that's good.
And if you have students attending, please send them, because that helps us.
Attendance matters.
Attendance does matter. Every minute counts.
Was that it, Amy, for the preliminary budget?
Yes, if there's any discussion, but we would need a decision,
Madam Chair.
if this looks good.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 24-25 preliminary budget as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Or actually, discussion? No discussion? Alright, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you. So the 6603 PT agreement came under consent last month and was approved. And of course, after we had you guys approve it, we heard from one of the schools that they needed fewer hours for PT for the upcoming year. So what you will see is revised 6603. I did highlight, if it rolled in for me, where the change occurred. So it was one of the school districts where they reduced from 5 hours per week to 3 hours. So that will change our physical therapist's time. It reduced it to 16 to 18 hours a week. And then that one school district will have a minimum of 3 hours. So that is the only change, but because you had approved it and signed it, I did need to bring it. And I thought rather than throwing it on consent, I would explain what happened. So we will need discussion/decision on the 6603 revised contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised 66.03 PT agreement as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The final thing under mine is Johnson Block, that is our auditors. They sent an engagement letter for the upcoming audit. And because it's over $10,000 in an ongoing contract, I did want to bring that to the board. Chris actually asked me what we paid last year, which is a great question. It was just over $22,000, and this year they're proposing just over $24,000. They do come, oh my goodness, that might be next week. Totally on it. They come the first time in June, and then they'll come again in August. So obviously this first time is a very preliminary, just letting me know what they need. And then August is that deep dive that they will do, and then they go, they do a single audit as well, where they pick 2 programs randomly that they will deep dive into on their part and ask for a lot more information on. So just so you know what those pieces are, because I do believe they call that out, the federal compliance audit and the state compliance audit is that single audit. Are there any questions on the services or the agreement itself?
I do quickly. Is this it wasn't clear to me if it's a fixed fee or is it an hourly fee with a not to exceed? It sounds like, I read it as a fixed fee, and if it takes too much time, we can come back and ask you for more. Is that the gist of it?
Yes, it is a fixed fee.
Okay.
And we have been very fortunate when working with them. They send me a lot of information, what they need ahead of time, which
Right.
helps control the time that they have to be here.
Sure.
And we do a lot of it online now, so they really only come in twice and for limited time when they're here, because a lot of it is just uploading information to an online website.
Perfect, yeah, I get it. Yep, okay. And then, it's a long contract. I assume, is this the same contract we sign every year? And I assume at some point it's gone through legal just to make sure we're covered for liability
been
for not
working-
filing our reports right or something?
We have been working with them a few years now, so I think after 2018, we moved to them. It might not have been right away, but we will want to revisit this and just do another RFP process. But this is my second year working with them, and they've been fantastic so far.
Okay, but yeah, fair enough. A motion to approve the, let me see what it is. Motion to approve the audit engagement letter as presented.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And then Tiffany, just so you know, there is a folder.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, perfect. You and Chris So I just need to sign a couple of things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Future board or committee action or discussion items, does anyone have any items they'd like to throw out there? No? Okay, or were you gonna say something? Okay. PPC committee meeting date?
We're on hold on that a little bit. The 2000 series is the next series that we're working on, and there's a lot of policies from other areas that are pulled into, and I'm working to link them within that so we don't have to try to hunt and find them. So this is taking me a little bit longer, and I think because of that, I just wanna make sure that we're, you know, careful with your time as well in reading them. So I'm just trying to get it done as quickly as possible, but our next board meeting is July 15th, so I guess I would like for us to consider doing it the week before that. July 10th, 11th, somewhere in there, just prior to the July 15th meeting. Understanding, of course, that, you know, what the rest of the board, but that just, you know, I think the thorough job that happens in PPC, the way we detail out all of the questions and whatnot, helps the other board members to know what they're looking at.
We'll have some time to review it though beforehand, right?
Yes, yes. No, that's why I'm thinking I wanna, hopefully by the end of this week, get them in your guys' hands. And you're good with it being on the computer always?
Yeah.
Chris, I will just go ahead and make the copies and leave it on the front desk, so you could just come and grab them.
That'd be great.
So I don't know what that week looks like for you guys.
So Mondays and Fridays are always best for me, but I don't know what your schedule is that week, Chris.
Friday, I leave Thursday afternoon, I'm out of town for the weekend, so Monday would be much better for me.
Okay.
The same day as the board meeting?
No, July 8th. Sorry,
the week
that week
before.
before.
I won't be in town.
You won't be in town?
That week,
The 8th.
Wednesday afternoons, early evening, July 10th.
I think I can do that. I will be coming from Madison, so I can't do it early.
Yeah.
Is 5:30 PM work?
Sounds
I
good.
could maybe push it earlier, Tina, to help get you out of here a little bit.
That's okay, yeah, 5:30, does that work for you,
Yeah,
Amy?
Wednesday, July 10th, 5:30.
Or 5, we do 5.
5?
Just, I might be eating while we're talking.
The work is really ahead of time, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
it's really the ahead of time. Okay,
Finance?
Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
I got a lot of calendar issues early July. I mean, what's the
11th and 12th are the time I have available, unfortunately.
11th and 12th?
Yeah,
So, but that doesn't give any time for, I
No.
mean, how much time do you need ahead of the meet? Those are the best days for me as well, or but it would be the 12th really for me, and that's the Friday before the Monday meeting.
It just makes it hard for the board agendas, so we can do it, it just, whatever we discuss might not change because I need to get the board agenda out usually I've been trying to do that Thursday, so that you guys have Friday and the weekend to really look at things.
That's, I mean, if everybody else is comfortable, we can just, if something crazy comes up, we can call it out and say we're gonna need to change something as presented or reconsider something, if everybody's comfortable with it.
I'm okay with that if you get, the rest of the board is.
Yep.
Does the 12th work for you? July 12th? I think we did 9 AM last time or something, or does that work?
Yeah, earliest is best for me.
Me too.
Yep.
9 AM, July 12th,
Okay,
perfect.
thank you.
Are we doing closed session for school board meeting on the 15th?
Yes.
At 5:30?
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in your notes, thank you.
We wanna do your goals in July, right? Is that do we wanna do a separate meeting then if we're gonna have closed session?
How long do you think you're thinking for that?
I mean, I'd like to have at least an hour.
Sure. Do you wanna have it a separate meeting, or do you want it to be that night?
What do you guys wanna do? Because if we're dedicating about an hour for it and we have closed session, are we foreseeing closed session going an hour?
I think by then we should be not needing an hour for closed session for regular business.
Okay.
Can we just push back the public part of the meeting 15, 30 minutes?
I guess my question was like, are you guys okay if we're here for a little bit? Is it better to do it all at one stop
In summer schedules.
instead of,
Yeah.
okay,
I'd either rather start earlier
okay,
at 5.
okay, okay.
Or just push the general meeting,
Okay.
like you said, instead of 6:30, push it to 7.
Instead of having additional day to deal with,
Yeah.
okay, alright.
Are you okay with that, Tina?
I would recommend starting at 5 if everybody can do that on a Monday,
I can do it.
Yes.
just because that way it's not putting out the public, I guess, as often as we can to not do that.
Neil's good with you, bud?
Monday, July.
Am I allowed to talk?
You can, you were addressed.
I was gonna say, don't put me on.
Makes you the public's gotta know if they can do it.
Okay,
July 15th, 5 PM,
Yep.
closed, 6:30 open. Thank you. All right, anything else?
nope,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:50 PM.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Alright, 5:03.
Have a great night.
Yeah, you
Good night.
as well, coach.
See you on the courts.
But I'll be in there coaching volleyball probably a year from now.
There you
So
go.
you want any volunteer parents?
We do, always.
Absolutely do.
Always.
We'll have
That's right.
Kyle reach out.
It's great.